If you like our content, consider supporting us on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/segabits.
Let's get scratching.
We got an explosive broadcast coming to you. Listen up. Sega games, just keep playing them.
We're back. It's the Segabits Swing Report Show. Get ready for Sega interviews and news. Hello and welcome to the Segabits Swing Report Show. I'm Barry. With me is George.
Hello, everyone.
And we are joined by a member of the community, a fellow writer of Sega Sonic stuff. You've seen his work all over the place on the internet, and we'll talk about all those places with him. It's Donnie, aka SSF1991. Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
Doing good. It's been a busy past week for me, but hopefully you all have been hanging in there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just like, oh, we should just randomly invite Donnie on the show. No, there's been some stuff going on in the world and in the community, so we thought we'd get you on. We can talk a little bit about it, but it's not the focus of the show. Really, we wanted to hear about your sort of time as a Sega fan, as a member of the fan community, maybe some interesting stories you might have had from the past, and we can talk a little bit about recent events too. I always like to kick things off by asking, what is the very first Sega game or console you played?
The very first Sega game or console I played, well, I was, I think, 3 or 4 years old, around there. And this was like back in, 1995, 1996. And I got Sonic 2 and Sonic Spinball on the Sega Genesis.
Wow.
What do you think about that game?
Sonic 2 or Sonic Spinball?
Spinball.
That is easily my favorite game on the Sega Genesis.
Wow. See that, Barry? Like, me and Barry have kind of like discussions about that game. I don't like it. I think Barry likes the fact that it kind of has to tie into the cartoon, right, Barry?
Yeah, that's about the only thing. And I like some of the sprite animations, and I'm a pinball fan, so I like that aspect of it. But it was a weird game when it came out, because I remember sitting down, I'm like, all right, Sonic, I know Sonic, and it immediately started to control differently. You know what I mean? You know what Sonic feels like, and when it's different, it's different.
Wait, you're a pinball fan?
Yeah, I like pinball.
I like you.
Oh, good. Well, I'm out here in Chicago. It's the one of the big homes of pinball. I've got a pinball arcade up the street. Once it reopens, I'm gonna hit it up again. But yeah, with these crazy times, pinball machines are the last thing anyone wants to be touching. So that's a shame.
Yeah.
But so that's interesting, because honestly, just from, I don't know, our small interactions online and what I see in your writing, I always got the vibe that you maybe like got into Sonic a little later. So that actually surprises me. Is the 1991, is that like in reference to Sonic himself, the SSF?
SSF1991 stands for Sonic Sega Fan 1991,
Okay.
which is, basically Sonic's first year.
Okay. All right. Cool.
The funny thing is, back then, I had no idea Sonic 1 existed. I had no idea that Sonic 3 and Knuckles existed. And I didn't know about that for another 10, 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
As far as I knew, the only Sonic games that existed were Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Sonic Spinball. And it wasn't until I got Sonic Mega Collection that I realized, oh, there are more games in this.
So you weren't the type of guy that would like go out and like read video game magazines or be into, I guess you could say, news reporting at the time? Because like back then, the only way to get news was basically magazines, I would guess. So you waited like maybe a good 10 to 15 years. Did you take like a hiatus from video games or something?
No, I've always played video games. It's just Sonic kind of. I'm being a kid back then and stuff. I didn't really have a whole lot of time to play games, and well, I was a very casual gamer as well. So I do very weird things. Like for example, with Sonic 2, most of my time was just spent making Tails fall into pits and and playing the casino night like slot machine until the timer ran out.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people in the community that like Sonic because they could experiment a lot and be creative on how they play. So I think that's what a draw for a lot of people is for the classic games. What other Sonic games do you enjoy? Like, if you had to pick a favorite now that you've probably played most of them, what era of Sonic is your favorite, and like what games do you consider your like top at least 3 or 5 games?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think 10 years ago I would have said the classic era, but nowadays I'm kind of leaning a bit more and more towards the adventure era, mostly because of the modding community that has kind of come about since. Because oh my god, the modding community for Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 is insane. But let's see, I'd put Sonic Spinball at number 1, Sonic 2 at number 2. 3, I think I'd put Sonic Colors. Sonic Adventure 2 at number 4. And at number 5, I'd put Sonic Generations.
Oh wow.
I think.
That's actually a pretty like varied list. I think probably more varied than me and Barry's list would be. Like me and Barry obviously grew up with the classic Sonic, so a lot of our stuff would probably be classic. But I do know me and Barry like really, really, really enjoyed Sonic Generations. Sonic Colors has that vibe to it, like Generations. What's your whole take on like, I don't know, like that Sega hasn't re-released that game? Like it's been exclusive to the Wii for like ever, and it feels like it's one of those games that didn't sell enough or didn't get enough hype. Like I still see people talking about Generations online more than I do Colors. Or am I going crazy?
No, I've seen more of like somewhat of a mini backlash to Sonic Colors lately. Like it seems like it's kind of dated for its time, but I haven't really seen much about Generations either, to be fair. It's been mainly, I've seen a lot about the adventure games and the classic games, but not so much modern games. It's weird.
Interesting. So what got you to go from playing games to being a part of the community and writing? Was it like a gradual process where you became a member of a forum, or did you just like start immediately on some fan blog or fan site?
I started getting more into Sonic. I think it was around 2008, because I didn't even know modern Sonic existed either. And it wasn't until Sonic Gems Collection came out. But not even when it came out, but in like 2008, I got Gems Collection and found out that there were actually more modern Sonic games. They were still making them. And that eventually led me to find out about Sonic Unleashed. And Sonic Unleashed, I got that. That was my very first modern Sonic game, was Sonic Unleashed. And I got it in late 2008, not long after Brawl came out, because that's when I first learned that Sonic was actually still a thing, and then led to Gems Collection and stuff like that. But I didn't start getting into news until like 2009, 2010, when I first started like watching E3 conferences on G4 and online, and that's when I started getting into gaming hardcore. And then I learned about this community called Sonic Paradox that does the Sonic shorts, and I went on their forum, and then like 2 weeks later, there's a post on Sonic Paradox asking for a news reporter because they want to do a new Sonic news section on their site. And I signed up 2 weeks after I had joined Sonic Paradox. And I got the job.
And how was that? Like starting off doing that?
It was interesting because like this was my first, Sonic news reporting job, and absolutely no one knew who I was, despite the fact that I was on the staff. All I knew was that, hey, you're competent, and we can understand what you're saying because you're not using all these because at the time, Sonic Paradox had a lot of kids, and kids being kids, they do kids things, but they wanted someone that was not necessarily mature, but professional, things like that, and that kind of led to me being on the team just 2 weeks after I joined.
Mm-hmm.
And what eventually resulted from that was what eventually became my avatar, actually. See, on Sonic Paradox's forums, you'll have a little banner below your name, like member, privileged member for those who are trustworthy but don't have actual staff roles, staff itself. I had my own banner. I was the only one to have my own banner, and it was called SP News, and it had this little news reporter chow right next to it. Very low quality, but it had a little news reporter chow next to it. And that's where I got my news reporter chow from. It was by someone named RGX who made it. And he eventually made the remade version that I use today on Twitter and stuff like that. So if there's anyone to credit for making this little, I guess, my OC at this rate, but it's RGX that's to credit for it. He's the one that made it.
So from that experience, are there any notable people who are still around now that we might have heard of?
The Wax still around. RGX is still around. At the time I had done this, I also did a podcast on there called the Sonic News Show that went for a couple of years, and that's where I eventually met a lot of the people in the community, like Dreadnux.
Yeah.
And various people from FTCR and Branch Scratch Comms, and people in the Sega community, and Jamie of the Sonic Show I met at that time, and there were a lot of people I had never met before that I met through that show, and that's how people became aware of me. And I also did live coverage of things too. For example, when Sonic Generations was teased, remember the first trailer, that first teaser trailer for Sonic Generations, where you saw Modern Sonic running in a whitish green hill zone, but there's this green strip there, right, and then suddenly Classic Sonic appears? That I actually covered live, and I eventually attracted the attention of Tristan from TSSZ News, and he a few years later he was going to retire because he had some IRL stuff to attend to. He was getting a new job and didn't have the time for it anymore, so he hired me. And that's how I ended up on TSSZ News.
And so was his talk when he hired you that he was going to retire, that you were going to take over TSSZ News, or that you were just there to help out while he was gone?
Basically, I should clarify, it was more like semi-retirement, where he was taking a step back from reporting on news, but he was still reachable behind the scenes. So he'd still be doing behind-the-scenes site stuff at the time, and I'd be basically taking his lead reporter role, reporting on articles and stuff.
Right.
That's what. Yeah.
No, go on.
No, I was gonna say that's pretty much how it went for a few years. After a while, I had branched out into Nintendo news as well, because I'm a trader to Sega. But
it's all good.
But I branched out to my Nintendo news in 2016. And that sort of became kind of like a dual priority with TSSZ for a while. And then basically Tristan realized, hey, Donnie, do you need a little more help, recording things? Not recording things, but writing things.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, sure, why not? I can always use more help. And at this point, he had gotten things sorted out, Tristan. He's on a good schedule, had gotten things in order, so he's able to come back and do more. And he did. And that's sort of what led to events from last week.
Right.
Oh.
Okay, so, not to get into that just yet, but that's interesting you brought up his stepping away, because I remember that. And I mean, we don't need to get too much into George and I, our experience and relationship with Tristan, but
No.
uh, suffice to say, it started like non-existent and then quickly became pretty negative. Um, and so when I saw that news, I was like, oh, okay, I can live with this. I like this idea. And then when I saw him kind of come back, I was just kind of confused because I was like, was it a temporary thing? It didn't seem that way. And I'll be honest, after 10 years in the community, there are more than enough people. And if I told you the names of their sites, you'd go, oh, that person who will tell you behind the scenes, I'm stepping away. I'm done. You take over. Not a year later, they're like, hey, what's my login? And you're like, oh, okay. So I've come to never trust anyone that says they're stepping away. They always come back. And so so it's I guess I was surprised to see him easing back in, and you never felt though like you were being squeezed out or anything, right?
No, I never felt like I was being squeezed out or anything. I just felt like I was getting a helping hand more than anything.
Okay.
I will say this much. When it comes to Tristan, a lot of people see that 2/3 of him that's negative, but there is that 1/3 of him that people that work with TSSZ see that's actually very generous and kind. There were a lot of times, because TSSZ was actually a paid job. I actually got paid for writing at TSSZ.
Okay. Was it per article or monthly?
It was bi-monthly.
Oh, okay. Was it, I mean, you don't have to tell me how much it was, but was it decent? Like,
It was decent, yeah. I got a Christmas bonus as well at the end of the year, which was nice. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But
I hope none of our writers are listening to this, George.
I was going to say that right now. I was about to be like, why I'm going to work for Tristan, but the site's down now, so I'm like disappointed. I was like, wow, wait, Tristan, why didn't you just message me? I don't hate you. I like you. I was about to say that. If you're listening, Tristan, I mean, whatever.
Right.
Just give me my paycheck and you can take Sega bits and everything else you want.
Oh, no. Okay, well, that's
joking.
interesting. That's interesting. So from there then, I mean, during that time, during when you started through to maybe just, during he started to return, were there any like big stories you remember working on, anything you were really excited to cover? I know, I mean, George and myself, sometimes, very rarely, maybe once a year or something, you'll get that one big lead, or you're like, am I the only one seeing this right now? I should post it up. Can you think of any instances like that?
Off the top of my head, no, actually. There weren't anything, like any news articles in particular that were huge, except for TSSZ's live coverage, we eventually introduced a thing called TSSZ Plus, which was basically our Twitch channel. But it was probably the South by Southwest streams that we did every year. That was probably what I looked forward to the most, because a lot of the time we didn't really have, like, the Sonic community didn't really have many sites that were there. I think Stadium was there every now and then, but it was primarily us that were really reporting from there. And that resulted in us getting like a lot of attention because of it, more than we usually get.
Mm-hmm.
And that I looked forward to more than anything. I think there was one year that I actually hosted the coverage of it, because the person that usually does it, Lou or Lewis, I think he was there, or something came up. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I had to actually step in and be the host of it, so to speak. But yeah, I've enjoyed doing live coverage of news, live streaming coverage. It's always been my favorite of mine, because I can just simply talk it out and make sure that people have a constant source of where they can find out where things are happening.
Yeah, I gotta say, the one big positive to throw at TSSZ is the live event coverage. That's something that very few other Sega or even Sonic news sites cover. I'm impressed. Sometimes you're in the audience, sometimes you're not, but regardless, you're on there reporting it live, which is difficult. I don't think no, George and I did some at the 20th 25th anniversary party.
Yeah, but like we didn't have like a camera out when the
Right.
party was popping. Like that would have been weird. I mean, to me, I would get like anxiety. I would think like being in a public place filming a video. Like I could barely even like record voiceovers when there's people in the room. Like I get all nervous.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
could just imagine that takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, we had people on the panel floor, like talking to us, and we even had a live interview with Aaron at one point. Like Aaron was actually on the stream, and then oh yeah, that reminds me. There's a story that happened too. I think one of our TSSZ representatives there, I think it was Noah. He actually helped get I think it was either helped deliver it or helped get the cake for Takashi Iizuka at the time because it was his birthday. And they actually helped get the cake to him so they could celebrate his birthday at the panel.
Oh, that's funny.
Nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah, Aaron's always been cool with TSSZ. Like, I've never once heard him complain about it or anything. Like, I have no idea like how he thinks of the whole TSSZ thing that's happened the last week, but
Yeah, Aaron's been really quiet, to be honest. Like, I feel like we've seen a lot less of him the past year.
yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that I have to agree. He's probably super busy. I do know that his team is way larger than he used to be. So I don't know. Maybe he's like into managing everything.
Yeah, likely. So that's interesting, though. You going through your whole history there. You're naming all these names I recognize, all these sites I recognize, but and maybe this is a little too much behind the scenes for the people listening, but as someone who has been in the community for so long, and George and myself, we've had connections to combined like Sega Nerds, Sega Bits, the Junkyard blogs, Sega Memories. There's very little crossover with the sites you're talking about. It's almost like we all know we exist, but there seems to be like these, maybe there's more than two, but to me it really feels like there's these two big groups where you're like, yeah, of course I know so-and-so from Sonic Stadium and so-and-so from Find the Computer Room, Sonic Paradox, but then there's very little crossover when you get over to, the sites I mentioned, and even stuff like Sega Shiro, Racket Boy, moving outside of Sega sites. I'm wondering why that is. I'm wondering if it's just because we're kind of all content in our little communities, and I'm not really sure. It's not really a question I'm posing to you. I'm just kind of musing right now. But
I did actually work with Sega Nerds for a small amount of time. I actually had a Sonic Yoda from Sega Driven on one of my Sonic News Show podcasts years ago.
Oh, cool.
And as for Sega Bits, I've known about you guys for a good while. It's just, I think it's just for the fact that, we kind of been doing our own thing, Yeah,
and I know, full disclosure, we did put out a call for writers and you did apply once. To be quite honest, I think the concern of ours, and I think we told you, I don't know, you can edit this out if not, but it's not anything big, that you were just on too many sites. So the big thing we were looking for was like, if news hits, we get it first. And I think that was the one problem that we kind of encountered. Not that we're trying to be greedy, but it's just like, it's just how it is.
You have a a really good resume though. Like when you dropped in, I was like, wow, this guy is on everything. So I was pretty impressed at the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So that's something I wanted to talk about. You have such a big resume, and I know at one time you were on so many sites. Are you moving forward looking to like focus on one site or maybe two sites in particular and really just become kind of the king of that place?
When I was like 10 years ago, when I was younger, I did have a habit of kind of doing more than I really should have. And I overextended myself a lot. That didn't necessarily cause problems, but people were making a deal that, hey, Donnie, you shouldn't be doing all this stuff. And it was really not so much that it wasn't really I overworked myself, but because of the fact that I don't really do a whole lot outside of online, it means I had a a lot. There, as long as I'm awake, I'm able to work basically. So it meant that I was able to, do part. I had the time to do all these things for all these sites, and I honestly still kind of do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that never changed. But eventually, I got to the point where like, okay, I need to get things sorted out, kind of get things organized, because everything I was doing at the time was, although I was overextending myself, the issue I had was that I was unorganized. So I got things in order. I now, when I do things, I jot them down, like notes for things I need to know when joining a site. I have things more organized in terms of my hard drive. So I'm doing a lot more stuff that's keeping my mind focused compared to 10 years ago or even 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that has helped a lot. And also, I completely forgot that I had registered for Sega Bits at the time. It feels like a distant memory now.
Yeah. I remember at the time. I felt bad, but you seem to bounce back, and the fact that you forgot is a good thing, I guess. Briefly, tell me about your time at Sega Nerds. I'm just curious. What was it like writing for that team? It was, just for people listening, Sega Nerds was a Sega news site that existed years ago. It's where I met George in its original incarnation. It had since gone away for several years, then came back for a bit, and that's when you were there. Was there like a real team atmosphere, or did you feel more like on an island when you were there?
Yeah, I wasn't there for very long, so I don't really have much that I could really share about what it was like there. It was probably like a few months that I'd been there, but there was a team effort there, and it was really, I'd say it was from my brief time at Sega Nerds that I realized that I really need to get things in order, because it was right there that I realized, because of my mental health more than anything.
Yeah.
My mental health was becoming more and more of a thing at that point, and that resulted in me like not finding the room to be able to chip in for sites like I should have. And unfortunately, that resulted in me being fired from or let go from a few sites, including Sega
really?
Nerds.
Oh wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever were to write for us, you could go five years without writing anything before George goes, "Hey, did that guy not write anything?"
Hey.
Oh man. Yeah.
Hey, you suck. You're fired, and I'm leaving too because I'm just gonna go and join Nintendo. Screw you guys. I'm going home.
So you write for My Nintendo News, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so is there any crossover with the Sega community there? Is it a whole different group of Mario lovers?
No, actually, My Nintendo News is very much aware of the Sonic community. They followed TSSZ for a while. They follow Sonic Stadium. I'm pretty sure they follow some Sega sites as well. They focus primarily on. They do write some Sega stuff in general. Like they covered the Sega Game Gear Micro news.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What's with these Nintendo sites newsing stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with Sega? Are they just like jealous?
They want to be cool.
I think it's mostly because they get a backlash where if it's not exclusively Nintendo, people go like, "Oh, this isn't Nintendo. I thought this was my Nintendo news." Like,
yeah, I have seen that actually, and I've seen other Nintendo websites, I guess, get into fights. I have noticed that a lot of these like Nintendo websites are owned by closeted Sega fans. They don't want to let their people know they love Sega, but they're like, "Oh, there's only money in Nintendo, so I got to do this." I know, you guys. I'm looking.
Yeah, it's just the Nintendo community. They have a closed-minded view of what's considered Nintendo news. It's kind of like if a strictly Sonic fan site started talking about Puyo Puyo or even Hatsune Miku.
I actually kind of like it when Sonic sites do that, because I feel like they have a younger audience they skew to, and just them to branch out on different Sega franchises is good for the company as a whole. But I do know that they kind of give up fast. Like they don't cover everything. They'll just cover like Puyo Puyo, like if they really like that, or if Hatsune Miku's having a game and they like Hatsune Miku, they'll cover that. But yeah, it's kind of hard to keep up with a company. Like, it's hard enough to keep up with Sonic the Hedgehog stuff. It's even harder to keep up with Sega as a whole, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's more to Sega than just Sonic. If
Yeah.
Sega was just Sonic, Sega would have been gone like decades ago.
Yeah.
Right. And you say something like that, and to me it sounds so silly. Like, of course, it's like me saying, there's more to a grocery store than apples. And I'd be like, well, duh, they've got a lot of stuff there. But honestly, there are so many people where when you say there's more to Sega than just Sonic, they'll be like what? Like they don't understand. They can't really wrap their heads around the just sheer volume of what Sega's capable. I mean, just earlier today, I was looking on eBay for a Sega brand home planetarium. Like, like they make the craziest stuff, but people just, they sometimes just see what's in front of their noses. So let's touch briefly on the recent events. And before I get into that, obviously we're talking about, a little fan site drama, things within the community, Sega, Sonic stuff. There's more important things going on right now. I mean, we're not ignoring that at all. So if you're out there and you feel like you need to be a part of these causes, you should definitely contribute. Don't stay silent. Support your communities. Be safe. It's such a crazy time. We're being told to go out and raise our voices, but at the same time we need to not catch a virus that will kill us. It's it's a very strange tug of war. But I guess a very strange thing that happened this past week is that there was a little bit of, I don't know, cross contamination in the fandom that led to TSSZ effectively shutting down. I mean, before we get into it, do you think it'll come back?
I will say this much, there are discussions within the TSSZ staff about wanting to preserve the site.
Okay.
At least.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't expect TSSZ to come back as in they're going to continue writing new content. I think that TSSZ, at the very best, is going to come back and open its doors, quote unquote, but not write anything else and just sort of preserve the site. There won't be anyone writing anymore. It'll just be keeping the site up so people can see its legacy and see all the news that had been written up.
Right. And so, and with the events that went down, obviously you had no blame in that. You played very little part outside of, sticking up for yourself and having principles. I want to hear, instead of my little third party view of things, do you want to just briefly walk us through what happened?
Okay, so I think it was like a week or two ago, Tristan had messaged me telling me, hey, you have my utmost encouragement, blessing, yada yada, to cover what is going on, what is going on right now. But make sure that they are retweeting verified sources with video. That was the scale of what it was that I was told that was okay to do. So imagine my surprise when I log on to Twitter and discover that, Tristan kind of took it a little bit too far, to put it mildly and politely. And what happened was, I said, okay, you know what? This can't do, especially with the subject matter at hand.
Well, he retweeted several tweets. I think about 30 within like a day.
It wasn't the retweets; it was what he had said.
But then, right, and
do you have that tweet, Barry? So, I mean, if the audience doesn't know what the tweet said, so they can kind of get the grasp.
I don't have it in front of me. I can look for it here, but
I mean, you could just say that he was comparing what's happening right now with the protesters with a plot of Sonic the Hedgehog from Sonic Adventure 2, I think.
Right, and I guess what I was trying to say is that I felt like the constant retweets of real world events from him caused people to question why he was doing it so much, and then I his rebuttal to them was, well, and I'm not reading this verbatim, I don't have it in front of me, the tweets were deleted, but that it was making comparisons to past stories in Sonic games where Sonic encountered, I guess, wrongful imprisonment or arrest, and also that there was a lot of Sonic forces had resistance against rising up, all those sorts of things. And I mean, I get it, but you can apply that to just about every fiction, like Star Wars,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't see the Lucasfilm Twitter going out and saying, "Hey guys, guess what Luke did?" And that's kind of like Princess Leia going to the Death Star, even though she, it's like, ugh.
So I just have a question I want to ask. Like, who in the staff has control over the Twitter account? And does Donnie
Tristan.
ever? Oh, okay, just Tristan. And does he ever? I mean, does he ever come up to people in the staff and go, "I have this idea for a tweet. It might be controversial, and just to check what you guys think." Never.
Nope. I
Yeah.
have absolutely, like, Lewis does his own thing on the Twitter. We all have access to TSSZ's Twitter, but who does what on the Twitter tends to be just whatever. Tristan does his thing. Lewis does his thing. I think Noah does his thing. I tweeted like a few times on it, but really I didn't pay much attention to it because I didn't want to, I kind of wanted that to focus on my own work to do the talking, and besides I had my own Twitter anyway. They had pretty much the TSSZ's audience and then some.
Right.
So I knew I had I felt like I had a better reach on my own Twitter than I did on TSSZ's Twitter. But whenever Tristan had something that he wanted to do, I think he said, asked permission if it was okay to start doing things on Twitter more. I think everyone was like fine, but when it came to certain subject matters, like what happened, he just went and did it. No real thought, like he just went and did it. And from what I've heard, some of the staff, I won't name any names, but some of the staff were actually like talking to Tristan about, explain to him like you might want to have boundaries on what it is you want to actually tweet about.
Right.
Yeah.
And he didn't really listen, apparently, as we've come to, as I've come to understand now. I had no idea. I never really said anything to Tristan about any of this stuff. In all honesty, I just did whatever because it's none of my business. It's not. I'm not Tristan. I can't really. I've bit my tongue a lot of times though, when certain things happen. But because Tristan had done so much for me in terms of giving me a few extra dollars whenever I needed it, and he was very understanding whenever I talked to him, and it's like, well, with him doing all this stuff, it's like I don't really want to get into cause any issues because I try to keep drama and toxicity down to a minimum on my Twitter, but at that point, it was getting to a point during this whole thing where Tristan would it was not Tristan that said the tweet, but it was like, hey, we understand, but this is our current stance, and we this and we that. And I'm like, this isn't we. I have nothing to do with this. What is this we thing?
Yeah, there's no discussion with the group, right?
It's like Tristan's doing a thing, and then he kind of makes everyone else sort of damage control for him. It's basically what the issue became. And in my case, it wasn't even damage control. I was just like, please just not. Can we just not? I want to talk about Sonic. I want to talk about Sega games. Like, this is all I want to do,
Yeah. And when did you come up with, what were you feeling when you were thinking about tweeting against that Sonic Adventure tweet is the one that set you off, right? With the BLM?
It was Tristan's various tweets and, like actual tweets and TSSZ's Wii response. I don't know who it was that wrote that. I just know it wasn't Tristan.
Okay.
It was after I spoke out about the matter that I realized, you know what? TSSZ is going on talking about this stuff. It's not right. It really isn't right. And now they're trying to drag me into this too with the whole Wii thing. And I thought, no, this doesn't represent me. TSSZ is trying to become something I do not represent. And I spoke out. I said, you know what? No, leave me out of this. And I do admit that it was a bit fueled by anger too, because I think this was the final, straw for me. I was so tired at this point of waking up to Twitter and seeing Tristan had done something, and it was people were reacting negatively to it. I was tired of the toxicity from TSSZ's Twitter, and it was because it was bringing me down. It was bringing the rest of the team down. And I had had enough, So I spoke out, and the rest is history. I ended up leaving TSSZ publicly, which was not the intention. I was going to leave late eventually once I had gotten, another job or something like in the media, but I left publicly, and the rest is history.
And everybody online actually reacted positively towards you, very negative towards TSSZ, what it seemed like, at least from, looking out. How did that make you feel that the community came and backed you up and for speaking out?
Like, even now, I get choked up thinking about it, dude. I just like having mental health issues that I do, and because I have autism and attention deficit disorder and various other things. The sheer outpouring of support that I got was just the amount of tears that I shed because of that. I was in a call with Kevin Eva. I was in a call with him as we were sorting out things, and I broke down in tears multiple times in front of him, like 3 times, just to the point where at one point I was like, "Give me a moment," and I just had to God, people don't realize how much I appreciate that kind of feedback. It was probably the thing I'm going to remember the most. Not what happened, with me breaking off with TSSZ, but people just uniting towards me and just saying, "Donnie, you did nothing wrong. Donnie, you're amazing. Donnie, this." It's just it tore me up knowing that the Sonic community actually banded together, which is rare to them to do this, and they did it to unite in defense of me. It's like, what do I say? I gained 1,000 Twitter followers following this whole thing, and it's still growing.
That's good to see. And it's funny because I think that the media gives a negative impression of the Sonic fan base. I remember when I was first coming into this, a lot of people told me, "Oh, they're the most toxic fan base of all time." And I don't know, I've been given nothing but support. I mean, I'm sure there's some few people that make fun of the way I speak or something, and that's fine, But for the most part, I feel like it's one of the nicest communities and supportive communities. And if you don't say anything dumb, they're really, really nice to you. I've said my fair share of dumb things, so I kind of sympathize with Tristan. But so you have to one day sit down and go, well, what I said was stupid. I have to admit I'm an idiot and move on if I want to be doing what I like to do, which is talking about Sonic or Sega, right?
Yeah, that's the thing about Tristan, is that he has a side of him where I do feel like he means well, but when he's actually under pressure to do things, it sort of wears him down, especially the reaction he got to those tweets. He has never gotten a backlash that he got. Even before 10 years ago, when there was a lot of tension between that TSSZ and and the other Sonic sites, there were non-Sonic accounts that were like, "Dude, what the hell?"
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
Well, it made the news. It made Kotaku, and it made a Japanese site, which really shocked me.
Wait, it made a Japanese site?
Yeah, it did. And they did a whole, I guess, Barry, you read the Japanese article. You could speak on this more than me.
It was from the Google Translate. It sounded like a brief history of TSSZ and Sonic fandom in America, and then talking about the events that transpired. But it was just so interesting to hear a Japanese perspective. And I looked at it was like this. I mean, I don't know how old she is, but it seemed like this like middle-aged woman in Japan is like writing about what Donnie said on TSSZ. It's very. I mean, you step back and look at the absurdity of it. It is kind of funny, but it's surprising. But I mean, I guess you look at it the other way around. There's Japanese sites that we frequent often, and if they just went down and be like, what happened? And I guess that's kind of what's going on over there. They check us out from time to time, and I'm sure they're like, hey, that one site disappeared. What happened? Write about it. So yeah, that's cool. And all this time too, people were saying they're not saying shut up, Donnie, anymore, right?
No.
What's the story behind that?
Okay, so the story behind that, it sort of got its very original roots at Sonic Paradox, because every May, it was one of the staff members' birthdays at the time, Nathan. He had a birthday mid-May, and it sort of became tied into a little gag on Sonic Paradox called Internet Ass Kick Donnie Day. And that sort of became where Shut Up Donnie sort of got its very, very early roots. But it sort of drifted over to Brain Scratch Comms and Find a Computer Room, FTCR, because Nathan and I knew about, our friends with them. And that's where it sort of took off from there, was because Nathan and I sort of brought it over to them. And they have a much larger audience, and I became more of a frequent appearances there, and all too often, I'd hear "Shut Up, Donnie" just about almost every conversation I was in. So it became it caught on as a thing, and then it just sort of blew up from there. Where Dr. Eggman and Sonic the Hedgehog told me to shut up, and then the Twitter Q&A. So
that must be great. Now you can have that clip and play it back all the time.
Yep.
So he posted this right on Twitter, and then he got the feedback, and I've gotten some really bad feedback. So did you read any of the replies he got, and was it level-headed replies, or was there just some people accusing Tristan and the website of being whatever? Sometimes you get people that just walk in and they're like, this guy's this thing, and it's like, what, for posting this? I mean, the post was dumb, I get it, but there's people that go overboard on Twitter sometimes on the replies.
The sheer volume, I think what probably overwhelmed the staff was the sheer volume. There wasn't really anything. There was very, very little that was actually insulting from what I read. Okay. But it was mostly just memes, really. Just pictures and GIFs. And I think at one point, what was it? It was mainly just that, and also people just saying, yeah, this was not a good idea, basically. Okay,
and you did the... Okay, so I saw you do that public tweet about leaving, and you said, I remember this specifically because when Tristan shut down the website, he mentioned, which felt to me like a petty kind of like he's trying to do payback, right? When you said, no one's going to miss me on TSSZ, and then everybody came out and supported you. And he put the same thing about them being shut down. So, to me, it almost feels like he's kind of trying to do a slight towards you, or am I just reading into things?
No, actually, I kind of got that vibe as well, but I didn't really think much about it because, well, it's not like they're getting good feedback anyway, and this certainly isn't going to give them good feedback. So, it's like, hey, guess what? You're just making things worse. And everyone's going to now tell you they're making things worse. It's not my problem. But really, honestly, after I had said I left, I was basically just like, this ain't my problem anymore. I honestly thought at one point, the meme image of Kermit the Frog drinking tea?
Yeah.
I was tempted to just reply to that. with just that image.
So before you went public to leave, you and Tristan didn't have any talks beforehand, trying to straighten anything out. He didn't like reach out to you or anything.
The only message I got from him was, you know, that tweet you quoted was not mine, right? That's how I know that we tweet wasn't Tristan's. So I was like, okay, I don't care. This started in the first place because of him. So.
Yeah, and like, has he tried to like isolate himself? I feel like the whole thing he's doing with this. I mean, I'm not trying to be like I know him and what he's thinking. I don't. But it feels like he's just trying to like buy time or like try to like he got this negative feedback online, overwhelming like thousands of I'm assuming replies. It was on the news. I think he just wants to like go in his shell, not face criticism, and then hopefully come back in a few months and go, "Hey guys, nothing happened, right?"
Let's see. It was kind of like that and kind of not. I don't know any staff communications really, except so like I'm basically relayed what's going on from one of the staff, and then they're relaying like the staff are communicating, and then one of the staff is relaying me what they're talking about. So it was basically Tristan sort of taking a moment to cool off, reevaluate things, and come back. But meanwhile, the rest of the team are sort of discussing things about how they want to preserve the site. The site's not coming back. Honestly, I'll let you guys know on something that I haven't actually said publicly yet. I was not the only one that was going to be leaving TSSZ.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask next. If like anybody else also left, or was it just you were the big writer that left? Because I mean, you did a lot of work for them, right?
I did a lot of work for them. I wrote over 1,500 articles for TSSZ during my time there.
And how many years were you there?
6 years.
Wow, that's like no joke for sure.
Yeah.
And how many of those were like long form? I mean, like obviously there's news posts and there's long form content. Did you do a lot of long form content?
Not a lot, but I did do like I'd say 25% of them were long form.
Wow.
Most of them were like me going in depth about certain subjects, like sales, and I went into. I actually went into a in-depth piece about Sega's pinball division. Because they actually had, for a brief time in the mid '90s, they actually had a pinball division, a real life pinball division, and that wasn't something that really anyone had covered before. And I'm amazed that it didn't. I was amazed that no one had done it before, so I thought, hey, I'll go ahead and do it myself, and that's sort of what went from there.
Do you have access to that article?
I had to. I've archived all my work now. Thank God. But if I had to go there now, Tristan had already removed, from what I could tell, Tristan had removed some of my credentials, so I don't really think I would have been able to get there through WordPress, like the admin stuff.
Right.
So it was kind of finicky, so I had to use someone else's staff login information to be able to get into WordPress and be able to archive everything that I wrote. But right now, I have a file on my computer where I can see my work, including those in-depth articles and the articles I wrote at the end of the year where I like discussed how Sega and Sonic did and stuff like that. So,
I mean, I didn't discuss this with George at all, and we can talk offline. But if you ever want that, especially that pinball one, reprinted, I'd love to have it up on Sega Bits. That would be a great article.
Yeah, I've actually been I'm actually in the process right now of uploading my TSSZ articles to a site that isn't live yet, but will be returning soon. It's
fantastic. Yeah, I mean, even if it's published elsewhere, I'd love to point people to it because that's a cool bit of history. I'm glad you covered.
Yeah, I actually it wasn't just that I covered. I think I covered Sonic sales stuff. I think I talked about Sonic in the mainstream media. All sorts of stuff.
Are you gonna do like a host your old content onto another website, or are you thinking about launching your own kind of like archive page?
I think I'm just mainly focusing on just taking my work and just posting it to whoever wants it. You know, obviously there will be a site or two that I will be writing up for, which I assume we'll be getting to in a moment. But in terms of like what I'm going to be doing with my past work, my TSSZ work, it can just go up for whatever. If people ask for it, I'll just upload it. Like it's public. It's been public for years. So
Right.
it's like
right.
why should I keep stuff hidden from the public? No point. So people can just go wild with it, I guess.
So let's talk about that. What's next for Donnie? What do you want to tell us?
Well, at the time of this recording, it hasn't actually been announced yet. It'll be announced the next day. But I will be joining Sonic Stadium. A lot of my Twitter followers had recommended Sonic Stadium to me, and I had listened to that. But I was actually tempted to go to the stadium anyway because I wanted to go to the next. I wanted to be welcome to the next level, I guess is the way to put it. And I thought, if there's anywhere I can go in the Sonic community that would be actually going to the next level, it would be Sonic Stadium. I've also been in the works with something that had been in the works for a while, but sort of waited for news to happen. And it had just been released today, the first episode. Sonic Paradox had done a news video on their channel, and it was kind of amusing to me because as we're doing this on a program that I haven't used in years, which is where I got my start at. I had been having to go back to my TSSZ archives to see everything I had written over the years, and now everything's gone full circle with the Sonic Paradox news thing to go back to my Sonic news roots. It's just so weird because as I'm looking towards the future, I'm sort of looking back at the past too. It's so surreal to think that things have come full circle, and now a site that I had not actually ever in my wildest dreams imagined anytime soon that I would be a part of. I'm going to be on Sonic Stadium. I'm going to be a writer, and I'm looking forward to it.
That's great. Congratulations.
Yep, I give all the thanks to Zen, aka Dreadnux, for kind of having to go through the sudden realization that, hey, Donnie wants to join Sonic Stadium. A lot has happened. Should we let him on?
Are you going to be doing live content for him? Because, you did say you like doing live content.
I've actually proposed that to him. I'd like to do live streaming on behalf of Sonic Stadium. Because not only because of live news coverage, but I also do stuff for the Sonic hacking contest. I'm a judge and media manager for them, and I also stream for them. So I'd love to be able to give Sonic Stadium some representation in the Sonic hacking contest. So, among other things. So, yeah, I'd love to do it. I'd love to stream. I don't know if they have a Twitch channel, but
I think they do. I think I actually follow them. I think they do. And it's funny because I also follow TSSZ because I like to see what people are live streaming in the community, because I've been thinking about doing more like stuff with Sega Bits on live stream. It feels like that's the only social media aspect we don't really do because it takes a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
So when I see it, I was looking at what is Donnie. What are you guys and TSSZ doing, and Tristan? And I haven't seen you do any of the content, but I have seen Tristan, and for what I see, he has somebody playing a game usually, and then it's kind of like a discussion. At least when I drop by, I don't know. Does he have that as a show live?
He had his own show on TSSZ called The Final.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and at the time that TSSZ basically shut down, they were in the process of releasing an interview with Dreadnux, and it looks like it's going to be lost of time now too, based on the discussions that I've had. And yeah, The Final was going to be continuing, even though the person even though people were leaving, at the time, Lewis was actually gradually. We were actually gradually weeding out like TSSZ Plus because people were leaving, and it looked like it was going to be kind of retired too, excluding the final.
Okay.
Yeah, it's looking like the finals. Literally the final now. So
Finally, right? The hashtag finally comes through. I was gonna say no, for reals. I was gonna say so TSSZ was something that was like, where they already kind of felt like they were trying to like that Tristan was trying to like find a way out, or do you think he used this as like it was the straw that broke the camel's back, as they say?
No, Tristan was basically inserting himself more than ever. It definitely didn't seem like he was easing up. At the time, the plan was to make more, like, part of why Tristan wanted to do more on Twitter was because TSSZ's Twitter was on the rise, and we've noticed that social media was becoming more and more of a thing than our own site.
Right.
People had been, we've been getting more interactions from there. So Tristan decided, hey, we can make things maybe happen more and get traffic up through social media. And that's when he decided, hey, I'm just going to talk on Twitter more often. And
bad idea.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, people on Twitter, they want memes, they want to laugh, they want to share stuff. Like, make some bad memes or whatever. But like, I don't know, people aren't like taking hot takes,
Yeah,
like,
that was a very hot take.
Yeah.
That was a hot cup of tea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's hard to do social media, and I think, especially me and Barry, we're from like a totally different generation, and sometimes we say dumb things, and like we're more dumb than we are like malicious. And the problem with Tristan, what I've noticed in my whole life, like when I first interacted with him, I remember everyone telling me, this guy is gonna make you mad. And it was all fine. I had little interactions. We were fine until the day he got me mad, and he got me so livid that I swear I was like, I don't want to do any website stuff. I'm shutting down Sega Bits. I don't want to deal with these kind of people. And then I had to have like a walk and relax. And to be honest with you, I was way younger, and I didn't handle the situation between me and him. I like threatened him on Twitter. So I don't hate him. I think he's just when he has a point, he thinks he has a point, and he'll try to hold it on you, and he's always right, and you can never make him bend just a little bit. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah, that's basically the issue that kind of made things worse as well, is that he's just saying I'm sorry is just very, very difficult for him. He's always got to make sure he defends himself no matter what the cost. And I think I can only remember one time where he actually did apologize, and that was like a year or two ago, and didn't really get a whole lot of attention at the time, because back then when Tristan did something on Twitter, it came and went.
Yeah.
That's part of why I was able to bite my tongue at the time, was because Tristan did a thing. Oh well, in 24 hours it'll be a thing of the past and whatever. Yeah, this was a completely different story, and I knew this was going to be completely different just because of what things had been happening lately, and everyone's very, upset about what had happened. And Tristan, didn't exactly make things any better by tweeting those things. And I knew, this isn't going to go away. I do a lot of the time, even now, it's like I still feel like a bit of fault, because the entire reason why Tristan decided to come back was because of me. It was because I had, needed a little help. The entire reason why Tristan started doing more on Twitter was because I decided to just go with it. And
personally, I don't think you should blame yourself. I think he did the tweet. He's a grown man. He made a mistake, and he decided not to just do the responsible thing. He didn't decide to just apologize to people. He decided to delete his website and pretty much kind of play the pity card, which I don't know. I just think that's a bad way to leave. Also, deleting all your work. or making it hard for you to get your work?
Yeah, the good news is that from what I've heard in the last a day or two, most of the current team, the team that had been around at the time of the closing, they've been able to archive their work. I think only 2 people off the top of my head were not able to archive the work, including Tristan. And well, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen with Tristan, when he's going to come back, if he's going to come back. All I know is that he's going to quote unquote reevaluate things. So I don't
Hopefully
really.
Hopefully he's getting some counseling. I don't know. I mean, just handle things better. Just chill. It's okay to make mistakes. I think a lot of people would have been fine if he came out and made a video about how dumb and like tone deaf he was and just admit to it and move on. I think everybody on the Sonic community would have been like, all right, we make mistakes. We get it.
Yeah, it's just the thing about the staff is that they're all in pretty much agreement that we just want to preserve the site. We're done. Like we're just, nobody's really wanting the site to come back with new content. I feel like it's no going back now. TSSZ has now become synonymous with what has happened in the last week. The momentum that had been gained on Twitter has been completely blunted. Is now going in reverse. TSSZ's Twitter's lost hundreds of followers since this happened.
But you gained followers. That's good.
Yeah, I personally gained followers. I actually did recommend to the one site in particular. I recommended them go in contact with 2 of the TSSZ members who were actually still wanting to do things, and I don't know how successful things went with that. But I'm trying. I do hope that the rest of the team, even though I've kind of, I wouldn't say I've had a falling out, but most of the team I'm not really talking with as much as I had been before. Mostly because the Wii thing just sort of made me feel like it wasn't just a Tristan thing,
You think it was like everybody there was okay with that tweet? Because I mean, to me, it makes it kind of feel like he doesn't really talk to anybody about this kind of stuff, and it's just spontaneous, and everybody just deals with it that's working on the site.
It was sort of like they deal with it, but they don't deal with it publicly. They sort of tell Tristan politely. From what I know, they tell Tristan politely to kind of keep things, in check a little bit. But when it breaks out in public, they just keep quiet about it. And I don't want to make it sound like that they're to blame or anything,
Gotcha.
because I was just the same. Like I really was, and it's just more along the lines of I wish that by me speaking out, more of the staff were just kind of spoke out too, to kind of show that, hey, we had been doing stuff behind the scenes to kind of deal with this. We don't want to make it seem like, this was solely this was all of us to blame or anything. But, it kind of upset me to see that Wii tweet. I think that's what, I feel like I was already about to say something beforehand, but when that Wii tweet came out, where it's like, oh, we understand, but this is our stance. This doing this. It's like, no, this is what Tristan's doing, not the team.
I just think it's weird that he takes such a strong stance on things that don't have to do with Sega or Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, what's your thing about? I do know that Tristan, I mean, for people that are listening to this and don't know him, he actually works in the news as a news, I guess, graphic designer or something in real life, right?
Yeah, he doesn't like to make a big deal about where exactly he's working, but it's similar to that, yeah. But it's more along the lines of he only does that kind of stuff if it's very, very important. And if it feels like things are more important than Sonic right now. And that's what he was basically going along with here. My stance is it's okay to retweet things on an official, on a news account, as long as you don't really, you keep it to just that and keep a lot of your opinions to your personal account.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I guess when you have like an account like TSSZ and like me with Sega Bits, sometimes I get into something and I want to retweet it, but it has nothing to do with Sega, Sonic, or even video games. I guess it's kind of hard to be like, oh, I have an audience of like 8,000, 10,000 people right here. I could, engage with them on this other topic I'm passionate about. And I try not to mix that personally because I think it'd be like unfair to most people in I guess, that do writing for us, because it'd be like what I stand for, they stand for now. And they only came on to with Sega Bits to write about Sonic the Hedgehog or Sega, right?
Yeah, it's weird. I have a very unique Twitter account in that people turn to my Twitter account for Sonic news, but I'm also able to get away with talking and stuff because it's also my personal account.
Yeah, you don't have a group of people that are Donnie, right? You're just one person.
Yeah, it's very unique in that way because just about everyone else, they all do have their own personal accounts, but they also run, say Sega Bits or Sonic Stadium or Sonic Retro, et cetera, et cetera. Like with me, I have a double effect where my Twitter is a news account and a personal account. So
right,
it's like I can just do whatever the hell I want. But even then, I still keep things. I still have boundaries. Like I've gotten more outspoken about the situation in the U.S. lately, but it's mostly because people have just been encouraging me to do it. Really, I mean, I wouldn't have done it if my cat's meowing. I wouldn't have been able to do it as easily if people hadn't been encouraging me. Like I'm always reading what is going on with my with Twitter replies, even though for my mental health I really shouldn't be.
Right.
But I can't help it. I like seeing people and what they have to say, and I learn things.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that you were so positive and receptive to come on here and chat with us about the whole thing, especially with it. It's not too far in the rearview mirror right now. It's been only a few days, but it's fresh in our minds. So I think it's important to talk about, and it's great that you have a new home already. Honestly, I think you just need to take a TSSC break from that whole ecosystem and just enjoy yourselves with the Sonic Stadium community, and just really go all in. Like see what you're capable of doing there, see where people need help, and offer your own services as you've already shown you're willing to do with the live events. And my only advice is just to see what areas need filling and where they're kind of not really doing much, which it's easy to do if you're someone like yourself who has done work in just about every facet of running a site, maybe except for site design. that's up to someone else to design the site. But so George, is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap things up? I had something we can close out on.
I was going to ask Donnie what he thought about the Game Gear Micro and the news, the fog. I don't know if you heard about the fog, but that kind of news. Because, I mean, that's like Sega's 60th anniversary, and you haven't really been writing about Sega right now with all the drama.
Yeah, I've been trying to trying to make a big deal about I had been making a big deal about the whole big scoop thing that had been teased like last week. And I thought it would be a mini console and maybe a cloud service, and turns out I got both, which is interesting. The Sega Game Gear Micro. Oh God,
it's something.
Yeah, it's definitely something. I don't know why they made it in multiple colors with like 4 games in each, but I think they should have just done something like the Genesis Mini more than anything. But
personally, I think that they saw that. I think that when they released the Mini, they saw that collectors were the ones buying it mostly, and they probably thought, well, we put 4 of them with 4 games each, then the collectors will have to buy all 4. I mean, it would make sense. So, I mean, that's what I think. I think they know that it's a smaller pool for these micro consoles, so they're trying something new, I guess. I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but I hope that for the US release they put a little more games, at least like 16.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do.
'cause I mean, sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, like, I do admit though that the fall gaming thing, that's a cool idea. Like Sega's very known, like well known for their arcade games. Like, and to have like a service for that is cool. I just
Yeah,
I just wonder if it'll be coming overseas to, Europe and US.
it's a very technical idea. I've read at least 2 or 3 articles on it, and each time I get a different idea in my head of how it functions. It really seems like it's a localized kind of cloud-based server farm that's at the arcade itself that speaks to the arcade machines, so it's centralized there rather
Yeah.
than some office, some room in Sega headquarters controlling all the arcades. It's more giving control to the arcade owners, but then they can kind of do with it as they please in terms of like, hey, we close at 9 p.m., but when you get home, they could possibly have people connect to them from their home computers, and they could be making money overnight. A lot of these people are night owls, and the arcades can't function 24 hours sometimes. So, I mean, it's kind of a blue skies opportunity for them because there's so many possibilities with this technology. I personally was just a little disheartened to see people being so negative about it. But then again, this is a technical idea that we haven't really seen in use yet. So I'm sure if you were to describe people how GD-ROMs work, they'd say, no, I want a new console. And then you're like, but it's the Dreamcast. And they go, oh, that's how it works. It's I don't know. Maybe people don't care about, how the bread's made. They just want to, like go to the store and buy a loaf. They don't care.
I'm torn. I'm torn on if it's really revolutionary or not. I want to say it is, but I want to say it isn't because cloud services aren't really new. But for arcade machines, that's new.
Yeah. And they do. I know Sega does this thing called Sega Prize. I don't know that you could do it on your mobile app, and then if you win a prize, it's kind of like a crane machine. You get it mailed to your house, or you pick it up at a Sega station. So they have something like that with some mobile things. I mean, it's not the same as the Fog. My only concern is that the Fog will be like the cloud, where we're promised this technical innovation, and every single 5 years we're like, it's happening, guys, and all we do is like get a Google Drive and put our family pictures on them. It's like that's cool, but it's not. You remember when Microsoft was saying that cloud gaming was going to change Xbox One, and we never really got a game that changed because of cloud gaming yet. So I'm hoping it's not one of those things with Sega where they're promising investors a gold mine with Fog, but they're just delaying it. All right, we'll see later. Yeah.
I mean, I remember the Sega Mini, the Sega Genesis Mini getting repeatedly delayed. So
yeah,
right. Yeah, and I think in terms of the Game Gear Micro, I've read a few, and I definitely recommend you guys and anyone listening to this check out the. If you check the landing page for it on the Japanese site, they have 2 links, one to Famitsu and one to, I think it's that website, not Beep, but it's their nerdy retro game site in Japan. And they have some great interviews. It gives you a kind of a look behind the scenes as to the thought process behind it. And that whole thing kind of sold me more on the concept. And honestly, I mean, for me, when there's so much shit going on in my life, little things like this, I sometimes step back and go, you know what? I'm okay if there's 4 games on each one.
yeah.
It's not bought. At the end of the day, I step back. There was a moment where I was like, the hell, what are they thinking? And then I was like, it's a little Game Gear, whatever. But, I don't know, it's M2's behind it, so that's cool. I'm looking forward to that. They're always good. They always throw. But, yeah, check out those articles if you haven't already. So
you know what they should do?
Uh-huh.
I was gonna say just before. Remember early in the Genesis is a life cycle where they would do the slogan, "We bring the arcade experience home."
Uh-huh.
They should do something similar to that, but with the fall gaming.
Oh yeah.
They were also the quartermasters, so they're gonna take your quarters again, but mobilely at your house.
I can't wait to stick a quarter into my hard drive and play Outrun.
Yeah, I mean it's entirely possible. I'm really hoping that they do actually venture into that home arcade streaming, because we're gonna have people posting guides online, and then they're like, "Hey, here's how you log in," and then we can play like Border Break, finally, a game that we've heard about for years and we've never really been able to touch.
You know what? You know what games they should bring back? You remember those obscure like Sonic arcade games from the '90s?
Oh yeah,
Like Sega Sonic the arcade and stuff like that. They should
Yeah.
bring those to the service.
I've got one like 5 miles from my house.
Oh. Yeah, he's got Galloping Ghost Arcade near him, and they have like 1,000 arcades.
Well, not 1,000, maybe 700.
Well, just let's round up. Just round
Yeah.
up.
There's a lot of very obscure Sega arcade titles that they could actually give prominence to if they play their cards right.
Absolutely, yeah. If they can emulate it properly and then they just stream it to your homes, that'd be really cool. I'd rather pay for a monthly service than $5 or $10 a pop. Honestly, I feel like the 3D classics, Sega Ages on Switch, like it's cool and all, but I honestly wish it was just a service. And then it's like, all right, you're paying the $2 a month. Here's another game for the service. You know what I mean? Like I'd prefer that to, having to drop $7 or $8 every time they release one. And then when you look back, you're like, oh my god, I just spent $100 on.
Kind of how Nintendo does their online, where it's really just like a Netflix of Super Nintendo and Nintendo games.
Yeah, but maybe once the service ends, you can have the opportunity to buy an offline version for like a premium price. Or
Yeah.
they'd be like, you've been a member for 2 years, so here's a discount. Like, I think that would be cool, but who knows? But the great thing is I think, honestly, not just with Sega's 60th anniversary in Japan, but also within the community, there just kind of seems like, in some areas, a reset, in some areas, just like a refresh. So, I don't know. I'm looking forward to the future of things, despite all the drama that went down. I'm sad to see TSSZ go, but I'm happy to see the talent thrive and continue on. And I'm after talking to you for the past hour, I'm really glad that we've gotten to know you more, and that we have someone within Sonic Stadium now who we know well. I feel like it's.
What about Jason?
We don't talk to him anymore.
That's true. That's true.
We like him. We don't talk anymore. But you've gotten to know a lot of people online, hear the things that they have to say about you, but I had this, I pulled it up a while ago. It's what does Sonic and his friends think of you? And it's a online quiz.
Uh-oh. He's
so
quizzing you. Run,
I'm quizzing
Donnie,
you.
run.
Oh boy.
So before we close out, I'm just going to we're going to find out what Sonic and his friends think of Donnie. So, what is your favorite color? Blue and pink, green and red, or silver and orange?
Well, my favorite colors are actually blue and pink. So,
Oh, there you go. I think that bodes well for you. Here we go. Do you like Sonic? The answers are yes, he's so fit. No way. He's annoying. Who? Or he's okay.
yeah, he's definitely yeah,
He's so fit.
yeah.
Must be a British person. Who are you? Hero, villain, or both?
Oof.
Hero.
I'd say you're a hero type. George is gray, I think.
Yeah. I'm like Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a weird one. Okay, so what's your favorite movie? Paul Blart Mall Cop, or the movie the movie Year One? If you don't remember that, that's the one where they were cavemen. It was like modern comedians. Or none of those.
None.
Okay, good. I think that's everyone's answer. Who would be your best friend? Sonic, Shadow, Tails, or Rouge the Bat?
Considering, you know what? I'd say Shadow, because Sonic, I feel like with what my past is like, I feel like Shadow and I could actually relate to each other more, so we probably would hit it off pretty quickly.
Ooh. I want to see that fanfic.
Yeah, Donnie and Shadow taking down.
You've been through a lot recently, Donnie. You'd be like, yeah, Shadow, don't worry. Yeah, I don't know.
Don't worry, so have I.
So have I. I lost
Pulls out a
Maria.
gun.
I've lost Maria. What did you lose? And you'd be like, my login credentials. And you'd be like, oh, that's not really the same now, is it? And then here's the last question: did you like my quiz? Yes or no?
Oh, you got to say yes.
Yes, I love your quiz. Your quiz
Good.
is the best of all time.
All right, here we go. Sonic and his friends, and we're gonna hear their reactions. They all have something to say about you. They think you're cool.
All of them.
Well, here Sonic says you're cool and cute. Shadow says whatever.
Oh.
Silver says he's very kind and helpful. Tails says what?
I feel like
Charmy says, "Oh my god."
I feel like Tails' reaction probably sums up the reaction to a lot of people as I've been gradually maturing in the Sonic community. It's like, what? Donnie? Who's Donnie? What?
Amy says, "I hate you." I hate. Oh, Amy hates Sonic now, and she loves you.
Whoa. Okay.
Oh.
And Jet the Hawk loves you too. Everyone loves you. Like, you're getting a lot of like boyfriend girlfriend stuff going on here. Wow. Well, congratulations.
Well,
I mean,
Shadow's like whatever, so I don't know.
Do you want to hang out with Shadow and because you like relate to him and he's like whatever?
But
That's
there's,
so Shadow. That's so
he's
Shadow.
yeah, he's like, move on. I have, that's Shadow. But anyway, I guess that's one way to end a podcast. So where can people find you on the internet? I know you're on Twitter. What's your handle?
My Twitter handle is at SSF1991, and that's pretty much what I go by everywhere. So
Barry,
Instagrams? Do you Instagram?
not really. I mean, I have an account, but I haven't really used it. So
Okay. All
so
right.
Barry,
don't
check
look there.
this.
Yeah.
Check this out.
Yeah.
Donnie has 15,000 Twitter followers, and TSSZ has like 7,000. So like, basically, you got to be respectful to Donnie now because he's got the big boy followers.
Oh boy.
Double
wow.
digits. I mean,
it's even more awkward when you realize that Sonic Stadium is above me, and I'm about to join Sonic Stadium.
so how does it make you feel that sometimes like some brands on the internet have less followers than you do as your personal account?
I feel bad because like a lot of these Sonic sites and Sega sites do so much for the community, and it stinks because like they deserve followers too.
Yeah.
Which is why you should go follow at Sega Bits. I hear they're good people.
Oh, thank you. Oh wow. George is making sound like we don't have any followers. We have.
I always try to put us all the way down so that way people go and follow us after the
right,
They
yeah,
feel
we're
bad.
only-
They're like, oh,
We're only
poor
at 2.
boys.
We have 2 followers. Wow. So
If you-
low.
all right. So tell them where to. So just your Twitter, all the info will be there, right?
Actually, you guys have more followers than Sonic Stadium does.
Yeah, I know. We're humble bragging.
Oh, I only just found out about this. Wow.
It's all the memes. People just follow us so they can get mad at us.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the meme you guys sent me earlier today before we did the recording.
Oh yes, the eyes.
Yeah, because for those who don't know the context, today was the day that like I said, that Sonic Paradox News episode 1 went up on SP's YouTube, and I had tweeted out a picture of my news reporter Chow doing the news, and my screen cap was timed in a way where the Chow was looking like, I've seen some crap. And and Sega Bits Twitter replied with a GIF of 50 eyes, basically like.
It's a nice icon. I actually like the Chow reporting. I think Chows are underrepresented right now in Sega. Get rid of the Wisp, bring back Chows.
Yes, please.
This is the movement. This is our stand. This is what's important.
If there's one thing you take away from listening to this hour-long podcast, it's support chows.
Yes.
Right. All right. Well, as we close out, is there a song you want playing in the background? Do you have a favorite Sonic song?
If there's one song that I think that sums up me and also sums up just the general vibe I've been getting right now, it's probably "Endless Possibility" from Sonic Unleashed.
Perfect.
Let's all sing along with it.
No, don't.
This is my escape. I'm running through this world and I'm not looking back. 'Cause I know I can go where no one's ever gone and I'm not looking back. But how will I know when I get there? And how will I know when to leave? We've all gotta start from somewhere, and it's right there for me. The possibilities are never ending. I see it, and now it's all within my reach. Possibility. I see it now. It's always been inside of me, and now I feel so free. And it's possibility.
The Sega Bits Swingin' Report Show is a production of Sega Bits. Sega Bits is a fan site that is not in any way officially affiliated with Sega. Sonic the Hedgehog and all Sega-related trademarks are copyright Sega. All other featured trademarks are the property of their respective owners. Don't forget to check out SegaBits.com, and you can find us on all major social networks. Just search Sega Bits.